Hi all, it's Kylie from Kylie's Card Craft. Thanks for joining me today. What I thought we'd do today is some more of these little flower embellishments. I'd been having a think of the different demos that we used to run in the shop and remembered these guys. Now, once again, they're just the little circle punch like we used the other week. Oh, look at the glue all over my hands, sorry. And then these are done with seam binding. So, I don't know if that's in shot, yes. Very quick and easy to do. Now, as I said, I've done this one in seam binding. You can do them in lace. Did a little one a while ago where I used a red, quite a thick, chunky lace. And then I've used one of my altered buttons that we did the other week as well, and some embroidery thread, and threaded through my button just so that it's sewn all the way through and tied in a bow. As I said, I was playing around with these. So quick and easy to do. Again, they can match your journals or any of your projects that you're working on. And then, this is me, I like my book paper. So earlier this week, and I was playing around and I thought, what? How can I bring my book paper into this? Whoops. And look, these are my new favourites. I don't know if that's in shot. Is it nice and clear? Aren't these just awesome? So what we're going to do today is we'll do one with our seam binding. Now, as I said, seam binding, sari silk, strips of fabric, just the lighter weight ones, but that proves that it can be done with the chunkier lace. It did take a little bit to adhere this one, which is also why I've stitched my button on just to hold it all down, whereas my other buttons are just stuck. Some of my little gems, they're just stuck with glue as well. These are just a different gem that I had sitting in my stash that changed colour. I'm still not overly keen with that one, but, you know, it'll do to start with. I'm just going to sit these ones up along here. Now, once again, just a standard circle. These guys are about 1.5 inch circle, depending on the finish size that you want. For a 1.5 inch circle, you'll need about 30 centimetres or 12 inches of ribbon, lace, fabric, whatever. So about a ruler's size is all you're going to need. So we'll just chop that off. I'll make that a little bit even on the end. Just trim him back. All right, so round about a ruler's. You can trim more off the end. That's fine at the end. I'll pop that away. That's, you know, they're about 1/2 inch wide, these ones. If you're going to go a bigger circle, of course, you're going to need more ribbon. Move my ruler aside. Grab my scrap book pages that I just used for everything. That one's a little bit dead. We'll get rid of him. Right. So, again, just your wet glue. I use the Express It one, but there's so many different ones on the market, and it's really just what works for you. Popping, it's going to be messy. I'm just warning you now, it's going to be messy. If you don't like mess, pull out your gloves. All right, a little bit of glue in there. Spread him around a little bit, making sure you've still got an awful lot in the centre, because you can put more on your outside edges as you go. I find that mine has dried a little bit by the time I get to my outside edges anyway, so I'll always go back and put more. So just with your ribbon, fold him in half like so, and stick it round about in the centre. You just eyeball it. Look, you could mark the centre of your circle punch like we did in the flower embellishments the other week. So while he's in half, fold it back on itself. Don't worry about the glue that's on your ribbon. As this glue dries clear, it'll all just dry clear and the colour of your ribbon will come back out again. So all I'm doing is folding it in half and then folding it back on itself, so that I'm working my way around my circle with lots of glue all over my fingers. That's what I said. If you can't cope with the glue, do pull out the gloves. So in half and across. When they dry, they will lift up a little bit, whereas this one's getting awfully wet and all the rest. When it dries, it'll sit up a bit. If you don't fold it directly in half, and hang on, I'll do some in a moment, that one, it'll give you an extra layer. So every second turn, see how I've got it so it's not quite in half? So it gives me that extra layer as I'm going across. Now you could do the whole thing like that. So now I'm coming out to the side edges of my circle. I'm going to need to put some more glue because I never glued around the edges. So just a little bit. I've already got glue across my fingers, so we'll just put some more. Wipe that just a little bit. Folding them in half, folding it over, because now what I'm doing is following the outside edge of my circle. And down and around. Do every now and again check that it hasn't glued to your work surface, which is just always happening for me. I've got no glue on the edge there. And round. Just all you've got to do is keep remembering to fold it in half or close to half as you go. I find when I get to this point, it's actually easier to pick it up and hold it in my hands. And fold it over. Sometimes I need 3 hands. And a little bit of glue there just to finish him off. And it's done. Once again, another really quick little flower embellishment that'll match in with whatever project you're working on. Got to the end, I'm just going to trim that off, and what I tend to do is put a glob, whatever, of glue and just meld him into it so that it all sits down. Set it aside to dry. That's it. They are just such a quick and awesome little flower embellishment. And again, as I said before, the mind boggles with what you could put on the inside of them. Now, my favourite. This one just turned out to be so easy. As I said, I have to use book pages everywhere I go. And I've got so many of them. I'm forever, I'll do something and then think, how can I rearrange this into using a book page? All I did was pulled out a page from this book, and then I'll just pull a page out. Right. I pulled a page out. I trimmed across, so top and bottom of my writing, down the side of my writing as well, and down the side, so that all I had was the writing. Now, each book is going to be different depending on the book that you pick up. This book ended up being about 4.5 inches or 11 centimetres across. And inch-wise, we've got about somewhere between 7.5, or about 18.5 centimetres down there. Then once I had my finished book page so that it's just all writing, I trimmed strips into 1/2 inch wide strips, like so. So I just went across my book and just kept trimming 1/2 inch wide strips, which, if we're going back to centimetres, a bit over 1 centimetre. Then with, again, my liquid glue, this is the same as this one. I've just popped it into a little bottle with a fine tip so that I can do little fine work. Occasionally I want to do fine work. All I'm going to do is join my strips together because it was a smaller book. A little bit of glue on the end, sticking him on top of that one. Look, try and get them fairly straight. It's no problem if they're not. So one on top of the other so that 3 strips are actually joined together. It's like making those old Christmas decorations when we were kids. All right, so now you've got one big long strip. Put the lid back on my glue. And then, because it's me and I ink everything, I inked the full strip. So I just used my mid-brown, what I call my mid-brown, in a distress ink, which is brushed corduroy. Picked it up on my blending tool and just ran it down so that it became, look, you'll see that it's variegated and splotchy and all the rest, but that's what I wanted so that I had slightly darker areas and lighter areas. Did that both sides all the way along. Once I'd finished going through it with my brushed corduroy, I then got my darker brown walnut stain. Look, gathered twigs. There's quite a few different darker ones. I tend to use the walnut stain. And once again, with my blending tool, and I just went along the edges. Both sides again, just to give it that extra little pop of colour on the edges. Once I'd done all of that, I miraculously came up with that. So here's one I prepared earlier. So I'll sit you aside so that now he's all gone through with the ink and the darker colour on the edge, both sides. From that, all your good work, you're just going to crumple it. So just work your fingers along it and squish him up a little bit. It just allows for all those layers and textures when you're rolling him onto your little circle punch. Don't worry if you tear a little bit of it. It'll just add to it anyway. It's not a real problem. If you tear it in half, just keep gluing it back together. You can't go wrong. It is really one of the easiest things to do. And another way to use all our book pages. Yay! All right, so almost to the end. So now we've got this nice little crumpled strip that kind of looks like raffia. Now raffia would work. Oh, should try a raffia one too. Might have to do that. Right, back to our circle punch. Back to my scrap paper. Once again, gluing all of this down. I forgot to put the lid back on this one, so just mix him into the centre. I'll go back and do a little bit later on with the edges. Just find something to wipe my hand with. Yucko. Right, with this one, just roll it a little bit like a snail, I suppose, in your fingers just to start it off. Just so that you've got, I don't know if you can see that. If I hold that straight, can we see it? Is it focusing in? Okay, so that you've actually got it started. Sitting that bit round about the centre. You should know me by now. It's never quite the centre. And then just rolling him around. Flick this one round. You can roll as tight or as loose as you like. Bend it around. Use all those lovely squashed areas that you've got so that it's kind of like one of those rolled roses, but a book page one. Squishing him down as you go so that it all adheres into the glue. And again, I'll tend to pick it up when I get to this point so that I can actually roll it around. Now you can see where I've not done the glue on the edges. So now I'll go back in with some fresh glue and pop that on Okay. Because I've used Distress ink, you'll see where it's staining the little punched circle because the glue is wet, and Distress ink will react to wet, whether it's water or glue. So it's not a permanent ink. It won't stay there once it gets wet when you've first done it. It'll usually take a good 24 hours to 48 hours. Yeah, 24 to 48 hours for it to completely stay on there. Now I need some glue on that edge. A little bit. You can see I've gone wonky with this one. I've missed this bit. So we'll just squeeze him over. Trim that one off. Here's my little scissors because I know it'll cut the book page. Once again, I'll put a dollop of glue in there. Squeeze him down. It's a clear glue when it dries, so it'll dry all nice and clear. And for me, because I've missed all those bits, I'm just going to trim those ones off without actually cutting my book page, because I don't want that bit to show. So now, it might not be a beautiful full circle, but how awesome are they? I can see me using these so much. So this one was done the other night, as I said, would have been about 5 or 6 nights ago. So that is solid as a rock. And then I didn't pull them up again until today, just a while ago before I started to do the video. So this one's still a little bit damp, but you can feel him starting to go hard. And this is the one that we've just done then. Each time they're going to come out a little bit different because it depends on where you crinkle your paper, to how you roll it and everything else. In all honesty, my first one is my favourite one. But look, it's probably also been sitting on my desk during the week and it's got squashed and it's got flattened, because I've usually got 3 or 4 projects on the go and I lose things and then I find them again. But how's that, ladies? If I sit them on there, whoops. See, this one's drying beautifully and lifting up now as well. I still love that lace one. Look at these. How quick and easy are those? Nice little quick one. Quick video tutorial again for me, which is awesome. Quick little embellishment for you to make out of your scraps, your little bits of ribbon, because let's face it, you don't need that much ribbon for it, or more stuff for your book pages. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you did, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Don't forget the little notifications bell as well. Then you'll know whenever I put out any new tutorials. I hope you all have an awesome week, and I'll see you again next time. Thank you. Bye.